Welcome to the Hello Sunday podcast with me, Nikki Hayden. This is the podcast that discusses everything self-development, spirituality and sobriety. And it wouldn't be me without a little sprinkling of humour. Whether you are just starting out on your journey of self-development or have been exploring these topics for years, are completely alcohol-free or just curious about living a more sober lifestyle, this is the podcast for you. Each week, I'll be exploring topics in both solo episodes and with some amazing guest experts. So if you like what you hear, then please subscribe, rate and review. So with that said, let's dive into today's episode. Hello and welcome. Welcome back to another episode of Hello Sunday. How are we all doing? Hope you're all really good. Apologies for missing an episode last week. I think I was probably a little bit ambitious knowing that I was going to be away for 4 days and in thinking that I would be able to record and get it edited and uploaded given all the work and everything I got to catch up on when I got back last Friday. So I just chose to protect my mental health and not burn out and just do what I could do within the time that I had. And so unfortunately, the podcast had to take a week break, but I am back and raring to go this week. And I did say at the start of the year that might occasionally have to happen. So not ideal, but please do bear with. I'll always be back. I'm also just caveating this episode yet again with the fact that we have little Marley sat on my knee, and the only way that I can get him to be quiet this morning, other than put him in his crate, which I don't really want to have to do unless it's really necessary, like unless I physically can't be with him, is he's biting on his bone on my knee. So if you can hear chewing, gnawing sounds in the background, I've not taken up some weird new habit. It is just the pup, but I'm going to just let him crack on because otherwise we may never get through this record. So I hope you're all really good. I hope you've had a fab week. Let's do a quick catch up on some of the stuff that I was talking about that I was going to be doing for my birthday. Because I know I've had a few messages saying, how was Paris? Have you got any recommendations? We're going in the summer, or we're going later this year, or I've always wanted to go. So let's talk about that. And then I'm going to whiz into something that's come up this week, actually, which has been quite poignant, I think. So bit of a live catch up. So yeah, we went very early last week. So it was actually Monday. So we went on Monday to Manchester. We dropped the pooch off at his board and train that he was doing. So he's been doing some training with a local trainer, and they were going to board him for 3 days and carry on with that programme. So we left him. He loves it there. He loves the trainers. So he was really happy. And then we went off to Manchester, so we were staying there for 1 night, and then we were having a meal. I think I mentioned in the last episode that one of my husband's clients, or somebody that he works with, had kindly gifted us a meal at Ivy Asia, which was epic. I mean, we've been to Ivy Asia on a couple of occasions before, but not to that one. And going on a Monday when there's hardly anybody there, the service was really good, and they did things like brought over, like they saw that my husband was drinking a whiskey cocktail and brought over like a different type of cocktail for him to try. They were really, really attentive in terms of the service levels and, yeah, just the amount of attention that they can give you. So I'm always dubious about going out for meals early in the week because I just feel like the ambience isn't there. But yeah, absolutely 10 out of 10. The hotel was lovely. And then we drove to the airport on Tuesday because we'd got a flight. And this was the only, I guess there was a couple of things that we probably would change going again next time. First of all, my husband had booked the flights for Tuesday, coming back Thursday, but it meant that we didn't get there till Tuesday evening and we left on Thursday morning. So we only really had Wednesday, which was my actual 40th birthday, to be in the city and like the evening on the Tuesday, which was fine. Don't get me wrong, it was fine, but we would have liked to have a bit more time to kind of just spread things out and do a little bit more spend a little bit more time doing certain things and do some of the stuff that we didn't get to do, like Notre Dame, for instance. But we got there Tuesday evening, and the airport, if you ever go, is about 45 minutes in a taxi, but a good hour on kind of train and foot away from the centre of Paris. And we were staying like right in the centre. So we did choose to get the train on the way there. A, because I love a bit of a travel adventure. And B, because I didn't want to spend like 60, 70 euros on a taxi there if we knew we'd have to do it on the way back kind of early morning. So we navigated the train system, which obviously is like epic in comparison to the British one. And yeah, we made it to our hotel, which was stunning. We'd got upgraded. They'd put champagne and balloons in the room. It was just like really nice, oldie schooly Parisian type vibes. It was a duplex, so we had 2 floors with like a spiral staircase. It was just gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous, like floor to ceiling windows, massive big heavy drapes, artwork that was like bigger than my office on the wall. So we went on the first night we asked for a recommendation from the concierge, and he told us to go to a local French restaurant that was literally on the same street. Oh my gosh, did not disappoint. If you're somebody that likes sort of trying the cuisine of places that you go to, which I'd always advise, I mean, unless you're really, really picky eater, I think it's, it's part of like traveling, isn't it? So we had the most gorgeous, gorgeous French food on the Tuesday. And then we got up on Wednesday. I opened all my cards in bed. We had breakfast delivered to the room. And then we went out and did a full day. So we went to the Louvre, which, don't get me wrong, absolutely epic. Like, you just know that you're standing in, greatness when you're looking at this artwork. But we are not kind of art connoisseurs. So things like the Mona Lisa and all the Da Vinci stuff was epic, but actually, for us, we didn't have a guided tour and we didn't know enough about it we didn't really have enough time either to spend there to be able to kind of appreciate some of it. So it was nice. We're glad we ticked it off, but it was probably not something that we'd go back and personally do again. Then we went to the Champs-Elysees and saw the Arc de Triomphe. By the way, if anyone listening, I know I've got at least one listener who is French-Belgian, and my French accent is probably absolutely grating on you right now. So apologies if I'm butchering the French language. But yeah, I went to Champs-Elysees, saw the Arc de Triomphe, went to the Eiffel Tower. Gosh, couldn't think of it. Really misty though. It was a bit of a wet, misty day, so we couldn't see the top. We couldn't go all the way up, so we ended up just having some food in a little cafe nearby, which was €80 for 2 sandwiches and 2 drinks. So they definitely get the captive audience there. And then we had a little bit of a meander back to the hotel. By this point, our phones were dying, so we'd had to use them to navigate. So we went back to the hotel, and then in the evening we went out to a place called Montmartre and went to the Sacré-Cœur, which is the amazing basilica that looks out over the whole of Paris. We saw the Eiffel Tower sparkling. We just did all the touristy stuff, and it was just so freaking nice. And then I'd picked this Italian restaurant to go to for my birthday meal. We walked in, it was a Wednesday night, we were literally the only people in there, and it was like one of these little oldie worldy Italian places that sells like Italian, like panettone and all the like little different bits of Italian food and fresh pasta and stuff, and the food was absolute 10 out of 10 to die for. So really glad I did that. Montmartre, which is the little village where Sacré-Cœur is, it's like a little cobbled, like real old style village. So it was just gorgeous, and especially in the evening, like so nice. And then then we flew home on Thursday. So it was just honestly the most lovely break. I think there's a couple of things that we would probably do differently next time, and that is the flight times and probably going at the weekend, just because it wasn't that vibey and there wasn't a huge amount going on. And also I think some of the places that like bars and stuff don't open till Thursday. So it's, it's fine. It's a learning curve. And just to do the touristy stuff that we wanted to do, it was perfect. But yeah, I had a really, really lovely birthday and just had the nicest meal the weekend before with my friendship group. And it was just lovely. I just felt so loved and so spoiled, and yeah, it honestly was one of the birthdays that I will always remember. I think having a birthday in January is never kind of, I don't know, you always feel bad asking people to come out and to do stuff because it's, straight after Christmas. But yeah, I had the best time. So anyway, if that was a whole life update that you didn't want, then hopefully you'll skip past this bit. But it was just so nice. And I know a couple of people have messaged me, well, a few people actually, for recommendations and places. So yeah, if any of that is stuff that you'd want to do, let me know and I can give you names of like restaurants and the hotel that we stayed in and all that sort of stuff. But what are we talking about today? So today, and I feel like I say this a lot, so if you want more, I don't know, like more episodes with like research and science and that sort of stuff, let me know. But I know when I'm listening to podcasts, sometimes it's nice to have that. And I always remember an episode that Sophie Waddington did on Empower State podcast. She's been a guest on my podcast before. So if you haven't listened to that episode about finding your purpose, go back. I think it was like episode 3 or 4 or something when we very first started. But she did an episode once on I'm not even going to be able to explain this properly, but basically it was particles that were fed through like an opening. It was a science experiment, and it showed how conscious thought can affect everything, basically can affect energy. And it was incredible, and I'll always remember that episode. But there was so much research and science that went into it, and I don't often do episodes like that. So if you do want more episodes like that, let me know. But when I'm listening to podcasts, I kind of just sometimes like to hear a concept and then to hear that person's thoughts on the concept and to go away and kind of think about it. And if it lands, I integrate it into my own life. This isn't necessarily one that you need to integrate in terms of actioning, but it's absolutely something that has resonated with me. And in fact, the reason it came up this week is because I gave this quote to somebody else because they were in a situation where they felt like they maybe were falling out of alignment with people or judging people a little bit or not quite on the same level. And it's something that's always sort of stayed with me. And that is, people can only meet you as deeply as they've met themselves. So people can only meet you as deeply as they've met themselves. And what that in essence means, or what it means to me, is we can only communicate at our levels of self-awareness. We will behave at the level of healed or unhealed trauma that we have, and the level of self-love that we have for ourselves will be the level of understanding that we give to other people that have self-love. So a good example of that is, I'm somebody that I think has quite strong boundaries. I'm definitely not perfect in that sense. I definitely do things sometimes that maybe don't align, not necessarily don't align, but don't, things that maybe I'd rather not do, things that I feel obliged to do. There are definitely times when I will not say no. But 9 times out of 10, if it's something I don't want to do or something that I don't feel comfortable doing or something that just crosses a boundary or doesn't align, I'm quite comfortable with vocalising it, providing that it's reasonable. Like, I wouldn't say I'm not going to a friend's birthday or something like that, but I would if it was maybe, I don't know, they were doing... For those of you that are regular listeners to the show, or maybe you know me personally, you won't have been able to get away without hearing me talk about Simprove. Simprove is a scientifically backed, water-based probiotic drink. You drink it daily and it has been scientifically proven to help with things like bloating, IBS symptoms, pain. It was actually a dietitian friend of mine that introduced it to me last year, and I honestly wouldn't be without it now. It's helped with my energy, with my bloating, it's helped with my immune system, and also things like my skin. The list is honestly endless. Now, I have got a code for you. So if you'd like to try Simprove, you can get 50%, that's a massive 50% off your first 3-month subscription by going on to simprove.com and putting in the code Nikki50. That's NIKKI50, or clicking the link in the show notes. a bungee jump for it, I'd 100% put the line in the sand and say, I'll be meeting you afterwards, not for me. Or if a client has come to me and asked me for a particular, something in terms of business to be taken out or added, and it's just not something that aligns with the way that I operate, then I'm quite comfortable saying no and walking away from the business. So that's something that I've worked on. It's something that I have done a ton of work around. It's something that doesn't really generally come easy to a lot of people. You have to work on it. You have to get comfortable saying no. But that's one area that I wouldn't say judged. Maybe I do. Or who knows? I don't think if you're getting judged a lot of the time. But I do get pushback from people. I get people kind of, I guess, making like jokes in inverted commas, or being very, like, for instance, time management for me and being on time and not letting other people wait is a really, really, like, it's high on my priority list, really, really high on my priority list. And I've got a friend who that is not high on his priority list at all. In fact, there's just a running joke that, like, if you want him to be somewhere on time, you have to tell him 15-20 minutes before, even more. We went to a friend's birthday recently and he was nearly an hour late and everyone had to wait to order food. Now, for me, that's crossing my boundary. I don't think that's acceptable or okay, and I will happily tell him that. But he's always sort of jibbing at me and jibing at me and saying, you need to chill out more, you need to be more relaxed, you need to be more like this, more like that, go with the flow, etc. So that's a difference in how we see the world and how we have put our boundaries and our, I guess, kind of like personal preferences in place. And again, it's things like healed trauma. You are going to trigger somebody if they haven't healed certain trauma. So if you are, I don't know, somebody that is very, very strong in your attachment style and very secure, you might trigger somebody that is not securely attached by talking to their partner or by going for a drink with a male friend or a female friend or someone of the opposite sex. It might trigger somebody else into making a comment about it or judging you or, making a snide joke. But that's on them. That's not on you. And so the context that this came up in this week was I'm in a book club group. I think I've spoken about it before. And it's self-development books, and we do one every month. And then the girl that runs it does kind of podcasts every few days, depending on the book. This month it's every day because it's the magic. So it's a daily gratitude practice. And one of the girls had posted in the group saying that she felt that she was not being judged necessarily, but there was comments being made about her perception of abundance and how she was trying to say to other people, if you have an abundant mindset and if you think abundantly and if you give freely and if you are generous with your time, and it will all come back to you. And I think there was people in her friendship group or around her that hadn't kind of grasped that concept and just felt like she was trying to push her self-development mumbo jumbo onto them, and they were making comments and making her feel a little bit uncomfortable. Now, first of all, maybe she's grown out of or no longer aligned with that friendship group. If they're not friends that are ingrained in her life or family, sometimes it's better in those situations to maybe take a bit of a back step. A self-development journey is something that I've found that can really, I guess, not change people in a bad sense, but it can really highlight the differences between people that maybe you've grown up with as friends that maybe you wouldn't necessarily choose to be friends with now. It's just through time. And maybe those that just aren't willing to work on themselves, and then that becomes a boundary for you. And so I said to this girl, look, people can only meet you as deeply as they've met themselves. And by that, I meant most of these people won't have heard of abundance. They won't have done anything in terms of self-development, or very minimal, or they'll do facials and bubble baths and have an early night and call it self-care, which, don't get me wrong, it is, but it's a tiny part of it. And those are the people that are judging her for being further along or at a different point in her self-development journey. And this isn't to throw shade on or judge anybody that hasn't sort of gone through the self-development or isn't on that kind of path. You never fully go through it, of course. Absolutely not. But there is a difference between people that have done self-reflection and looked at their own flaws and shadows and shortcomings and really try to work on those and look at what it is that they can do to be a better person and to develop and to change and to create a better life for themselves. And sometimes if you're doing that and other people aren't, it can be super triggering for them. I've experienced it myself. I get quite a lot of backhanded comments and jokes, I guess, and mickey taking. I think I've said it before, by a lot of the guys in my friendship group. Absolute water off a duck's back. I could not give a rat's ass about rat's ass. God, that was American, wasn't it? A tiny rat's ass about other people's opinions on that, because I would not give up doing this self-development. Well, first of all, you can't unhear and unsee things, can you? You can't unlearn. So I wouldn't give that up for all the money in the world. But equally, it doesn't bother me anymore. It doesn't trigger me, because I know myself so well that it's something that I am so passionate about. You can either listen or you don't have to. Like, I'm not listening to half of the stuff out there because it doesn't resonate with me. That's fine. But you also don't need to let it trigger you or poo-poo it or judge it or take the piss. And sometimes when people in your life do that, it's because they haven't done this stuff. It's because you're triggering them. It's because you're holding up a mirror. It's never about you. It really is never about you. And so sometimes, and actually it happens with people in my family. I've got people in my really close family who don't understand the way that I look at the world. Sometimes they don't understand that if they are talking about somebody or they're being judgmental in a situation, they don't like it when I say something like, well, that's up to them, isn't it? Or, well, it's their life and we don't have to understand, and maybe we do the same in their situation, because they can't see things through their eyes. They haven't experienced it. They haven't got there. They haven't. And there's probably something that is quite triggering about the other person to that family member. So I just wanted to give that reminder this week, because it has come up, and I just think that regardless of where you are in your self-development journey, what you're doing, it works. It's exactly the same with sobriety. In fact, this comes up with sobriety so much. People that have never even given a consideration to stopping drinking or to cutting down their alcohol intake are so judgmental, and it triggers you so much. It triggers them, so much that they have to make a comment. You see it all the time on, an article will come up about dry January, and some dickhead will write, oh, I'm sitting here, cheers in dry January with a beer or with a glass of wine. And you just think, well, why do you have to make that comment? Like, clearly it's not for you. That's absolutely fine. But the comment's not necessary. But if you see that comment and look at it from the perspective of, do you know what? That's fine. That's them. They've just not got there yet. They've just not experienced, and maybe they never will. Maybe they're absolutely happy doing what they are doing. And this is what I'm trying to say. People can do what they want to do, but don't let someone else being triggered or not understanding your journey because it hasn't been their journey derail you, make you question yourself, or make you change what lights you up and is in alignment with you. That's the important thing. And so that girl had a chat with a few of us in the comments of that post that she made, and realised that actually we're her people. We're the people that are doing the things that she is doing and seeing the world through similar eyes. And I say similar because no one will ever experience the world the same as you, and neither would you want them to. But being able to understand the concept of abundance and abundance bringing about abundance, and just really kind of I guess, getting each other. Not everybody has to get you. And she realised that actually some of her friends didn't really get that side of her anymore. And did it mean the friendship's dead? Maybe, maybe not. I've got plenty of friends in my life that aren't on this journey and don't do the self-development stuff, that we'd still get on with each other, plenty well. And then I've got others that have dropped off because actually we just don't align from a values perspective anymore. And that will happen, and that's okay. So I'll put the quote on the Instagram this week, but yeah, in essence, people can only meet you as deeply as they've met themselves. And it will trigger them. You will trigger them. Things will trigger them, but that's okay. So a bit of a deeper one this week. Well done to my doggo, who has been super quiet throughout the whole recording. Well, I say super quiet. I'll probably listen back when I'm editing and realise that all you can hear is his crunching of his bone in the background. But yeah, he could have been a lot worse. And I hope you all have a fantastic week. Please let me know topics. I've got a whole list in the notes on my phone of stuff that I want to talk about, but that's what I want to talk about. It might not be what you guys want to hear, so please do let me know if there's things that you want me to cover, and I will see you all again next Sunday. Thanks for listening. You can find us on Instagram at HelloSundayPod, or you can email us on hellosundaypod@outlook.com. Have a great week.